So the section that we're reading today is entitled The Equality of Miracles from chapter 14. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica and David is our reader today. Before we get into the reading, I wanted to share what could be viewed as the bottom line to what we're reading today, or the final conclusion, so that as we read, you will know where this is going. And where it's going is that the Holy Spirit has a very simple way of perceiving any and all situations. And that always involves perceiving the situation as either one in which love is being shared or one in which love is being called for. And so she uses that as her basis of evaluation for all situations. She obviously defining those situations in terms of love. So with that, hopefully as we read along, it'll be more obvious where this is going.
When no perception stands between God and his creations, or between his children and their own, the knowledge of creation must continue forever. The reflections you accept into the mirror of your mind in time, but bring eternity nearer or farther. But eternity itself is beyond all time. Reach out of time and touch it with the help of its reflection in you. And you will turn from time to holiness, as surely as the reflection of holiness calls everyone to lay all guilt aside. Reflect the peace of heaven here and bring this world to heaven. For the reflection of truth draws everyone to truth. And as they enter into it, they leave all reflections behind.
Mm-hmm. So this final phrase, as they enter into heaven, into truth, they leave all reflections behind, would be a vision of a state in which heaven has been attained. And so in the course, we have the contrast, the state between when heaven has been attained, contrasted with the state before heaven has been attained. And what it tells us in the very first line is its perception that stands between our understanding and the experience of heaven, God and his creations. It's perception that causes us to not truly know what is the truth, but instead to have to rely on interpretations, which is what perceptions are. If you remove all perceptions, as he's talking about at the end, then perfect knowledge of all creation continues forever. So this course is dedicated to that phase of the journey whereby we shift from perceptions of confusion to perceptions of understanding, which brings peace and prepares us for this state in which we leave all perceptions, all reflections behind. The other thing that I'll just reiterate as a point that was brought out in the previous section, that every perception that you experience it it appears, so to speak, on the mirror of your mind, and that perception will either orient you in the direction towards eternity or away from it, either nearer or farther from eternity. So, what we are encouraged to do, and this is very advanced, but the words are chosen carefully, is to reach out of time and touch eternity with the help of eternity's reflection in you. And how we reach out is the subject for another time, but that we are encouraged to reach out of time, and as we do so, our understanding shifts from a timeline to an eternity line, an eternity realization. It changes from time to holiness. And so the question circles back to, how do we reach out of time to bring eternity closer? Let's see if we can find an answer in today's reading. Yeah.
In heaven, reality is shared and not reflected. By sharing its reflection here, its truth becomes the only perception the Son of God accepts. And thus, remembrance of his Father dawns on him, and he can no longer be satisfied with anything but his own reality. You on earth have no conception of limitlessness, for the world you seem to live in is a world of limits. In this world, it is not true that anything without order of difficulty can occur. The miracle, therefore, has a unique function and is motivated by a unique teacher who brings the laws of another world to this one. The miracle is the one thing you can do that transcends order, being based not on differences, but on equality.
It happened again, and literally, I did not set it up this way. This was not my plan. But the question from the previous paragraph is, how do we reach out of time to touch, enter into eternity? And it says it right here, how by sharing the reflection of heaven here, by doing that, the truth of heaven becomes the only perception the Son of God accepts. And thus, memory of the Father dawns on him. And so this is the technique, is to allow, stated another way, onto the mirror of your mind, heaven is shining. And also are our troubling thoughts. And by releasing, forgiving all of our troubling thoughts, then we accept only the thoughts of heaven here. And so and that's a choice, that's a decision to accept only the truth of heaven into the mirror of your mind. And in doing that, you reach out from time to eternity. Let's try to understand that in another way. There are the laws of this world, which are the laws of time and space, and you know them well. They are based in judgment and guilt and fear and preoccupation with the past, self-confusion, the list goes on and on, the laws of this world. But there are laws of another world. And the Holy Spirit, our teacher, brings the laws of another world to this one. Those laws are already shining onto the mirror of your mind. However, as we said, there are other things that are on the mirror of your mind. And so the bridge from one experience, confusion, to perception of truth, the miracle is the bridge. It's the one thing you can do that transcends these orders, the laws of time and the laws of eternity. The miracle is the bridge, the one thing you can do that transcends that. And why? Because it is based on perfect equality. Thus, we have our title, The Equality of Miracles. We'll go on.
Miracles are not in competition, and the number of them that you can do is limitless. They can be simultaneous and legion. This is not difficult to understand once you conceive of them as possible at all. What is more difficult to grasp is the lack of order of difficulty that stamps the miracle as something that must come from elsewhere, not from here. From the world's viewpoint, this is impossible. Perhaps you have been aware of lack of competition among your thoughts, which, even though they may conflict, can occur together and in great numbers. You may indeed be so used to this that it causes you little surprise. Yet you are also used to classifying some of your thoughts as more important, larger or better, wiser, or more productive and valuable than others. This is true of the thoughts that cross the mind of those who think they live apart. For some are reflections of heaven, while others are motivated by the ego, which but seems to think.
So we have a deeper dive into the thinking process of human beings here. There is the as we modern neuroscientists now know, because they can measure these things, up to 50,000 thoughts a day. Not all of them emerge clearly into consciousness where you could, so to speak, verbalize them or recognize them. So many of them fail to emerge fully in the consciousness, but they just fire along like neurons firing 50,000 a day. They can occur together and in great numbers. And we experience every day like this. So we're so used to this that we're not at all surprised by having so many thoughts in a day. Now, here's the point. We are used to classifying some of our thoughts as more important, larger, better, wiser, more productive. And the word I like to use is more valuable than others. There's a judgment that comes into play. This is something I want to attend to, or I need to attend to. These other thoughts, not significant. I'm going to brush them aside and not pay attention to. We do that constantly, not realizing that we're making a value judgment when we do that. This is true of the thoughts that cross the mind of those who live apart. And it's true also It concerns all thoughts, including those which are forgiving and those which are unforgiving. We then make a decision as to how we're going to respond to them. Are we going to measure them as important or not? The word order, ordering your thoughts, is used in this regard within the course. To order your thoughts is to rank them as to what's important and worthwhile, and to rank others as unimportant. Okay, so that is the human process of thinking that it goes all along. Let's talk about miracles now, because we're going to contrast these two states, those who live apart with those who are practicing miracles. Miracles are not in competition, even though there may be many of them. That's not so hard to understand because we've already are used to the idea of 50,000 thoughts a day. What is more difficult is to grasp that within miracles, there's a perfect equality of miracles. There is no need to rank some as big or better than others. And that very property of perfect equality ranks it or indicates it's from another level rather than the laws of time and space. As we know from the laws of time and space, this world's point of view, perfect equality is impossible. Okay, so we've got two contrasting situations there. One where rank ordering of 50,000 thoughts a day goes on all the time, often unconsciously, and another where miracles of equal equality occur within our mind. We need a bridge to get from one experience to the other.
The result is a weaving, changing pattern that never rests and is never still. It shifts unceasingly across the mirror of your mind, and the reflections of heaven last but a moment and grow dim as darkness blots them out. Where there was light, darkness removes it in an instant, and alternating patterns of light and darkness sweep constantly across your mind. The little sanity that still remains is held together by a sense of order that you establish. Yet the very fact that you can do this and bring any order into chaos shows you that you are not an ego, and that more than an ego must be in you. For the ego is chaos, and if it were all of you, no order at all would be possible. Yet, though the order you impose upon your mind limits the ego, it also limits you. To order is to judge, and to arrange by judgment. Therefore, it is not your function, but the Holy Spirit's.
Mm-hmm. So, A Course in Miracles often talks about the quiet mind, the tranquil mind. And one way to understand what that is to first recognize the opposite, which is described here. A mind of 50,000 thoughts a day that weave and change patterns that never rest and is never still, where there are alternating patterns of light and darkness that sweep across your mind, causing you to feel pulled in different directions, two voices, two choices. This is the opposite of quiet and stillness. This is oscillating or vacillating thoughts in your mind. And the mind then, in response to all of that, seeks to establish a sense of order It's a sense of order that your human ego that you seek to establish. Let me be careful here. You seek to establish in order to retain your sanity, being pulled left and right and left and right. It's understandable. And so it's your self initiated sense of order, the order you impose upon the mind. In doing so, that order does impose a limit on the ego. It does say, hey, I'm going to value this and not value those other things. But by your being the one who's established the criteria by which to value these things, to judge these things, you wind up imposing, this is called the prerogative of judgment. You wind up imposing judgment as your modality for your thinking, and it limits you, which is not your function, is the Holy Spirit's function. And so we need an alternative to this. We indicated at the beginning of the session where this is going. I'm going to use the Holy Spirit's criteria. But as long as we continue to be the one who it decides what's valuable and what is not, then we will limit ourselves and ultimately play according to the laws of littleness rather than the laws of freedom and magnitude.
Hold on, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Light is present always.
Yeah.
Now, this sentence disturbs me because I don't understand it. Darkness blots them out. Darkness is only the absence of light. Darkness has no quality, no substance other than the absence of light. So how does darkness blot out the reflections of heaven?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, David. When I first read it, I had similar thoughts myself. So I'm going to attempt to offer an explanation, but I fully understand your comment. And the way I view it is what we're talking about is what we allow to onto the surface of our mind, which is, you can think of it as the direction that we are turning our attention towards. And so if I turn the mirror of my mind towards the darkness and away from the light, then on the surface of my mind, there will be darkness. It doesn't mean that the light has gone. It just means that my attention device, the reflection of my mind, has been turned away from it. So that's my.
Don't we always in the course, and I may be wrong about this, and help correct me, that do we bring the darkness to the light? No, we bring the light to the darkness.
The other way around.
So we bring the darkness to the light.
On a personal level, my own guilt, I have to be willing to bring it to the Holy Spirit, to the light, and let it go. Yeah. So, yes. So we have to recognize our own makings and willingly bring them for forgiveness to the presence of the Holy Spirit. That's okay. Bringing darkness to the light.
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, these things are a little tricky. I know I got tricked up by them a lot. And so all this leads to more hand raising. Heather, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm just thinking about bringing lovelessness to love, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm really thinking, I can't stop thinking about what David said at the beginning, about what's going on in the world. I don't want to make this political, but as I'm listening to this whole thing, I just can't help but think that the best thing I can do is not to be against no king, but to be for love. So if we could bring love to the loveless today and make that the focus of this march in this world today, if we could bring love to the loveless and the call for love and the extension of love, that could change the world. If we could just see these marches today as a reaching out to each other, like the call for love is out there. Could we bring our love to the call for love and see it that way instead of imposing size? I just this whole part of it is just I'm getting the picture of how we could apply this right here and now in our own minds, because I'm troubled by it too. So this is very helpful for me to be able to apply the course right here and now to a situation that makes me feel torn, but I can bring love to lovelessness. That's my function, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Heather. And it actually is a paragraph that refers to actually what you just said towards the very end of this reading today. Paul, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jonica. Getting back to David's question of dark and lightness, as I was reading through this morning, I had this vision or some idea in my mind. I want to see if it's correct or not. Is that the light is always shining,
Yeah.
and that as a student of the course, the ideal situation would be as if I could allow the light to shine perfectly through, and that I would not allow the darkness to block the light. And that if the light is shining through me, it then shines to other people. I know that's an ideal, but I just want to see if that's sort of consistent with what we're studying here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. Maybe I'm fine with what you just said, Paul. Maybe here would be a way to think about it if you viewed it as a set of binoculars. And so I've got a set of binoculars, which is my tool, my device for perception. I can point those binoculars towards the light or towards the darkness. If I point them towards the darkness, it's not because the light disappears, but from the perception that I'm experiencing, I'm looking into the darkness. So it appears at that moment as though it's gone, mainly because I've oriented towards it. And so our role is to say, oh, I made a mistake there, but I'm willing to change my mind and help me, Holy Spirit, find the light once again. And
Isn't the darkness just the veil?
it is a veil.
Light?
Yeah. It's an obstruction. Yeah, yes, David, it is an illusion. It's something, an idea that seems to be real when we're confused. But in reality, it's just a construct, a misunderstanding of our mind. Said in other language, it was never created by the creator. It was formulated in fearful ego minds. Is this difficult?
Yeah, it's challenging. It's not difficult. There's no order of difficulty. It will seem difficult for you to learn that you have no basis at all for ordering your thoughts. This lesson the Holy Spirit teaches by giving you the shining examples of miracles to show you that your way of ordering is wrong, but that a better way is offered you. The miracle offers exactly the same response to every call for help. It does not judge the call. It merely recognizes what it is and answers accordingly. It does not consider which call is louder or greater or more important. You may wonder how you, who are still bound to judgment, can be asked to do that which requires no judgment of your own. The answer is very simple. The power of God, and not of you, engenders miracles. The miracle itself is but the witness that you have the power of God in you. That is the reason why the miracle gives equal blessing to all who share in it. And that is also why everyone shares in it. The power of God is limitless, and being always maximal, it offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here. A call for help is given help.
Mhm. So this really explains it right here. It begins with recognizing the way in which we've decided to value one thing over another, our sense of ranking and giving meaning to things is entirely arbitrary and was formulated in a thought system where we thought we were lacking in love, where we thought love was scarce. And so our way of ordering is wrong. But there is a better way that's being offered, and the miracle offers the better way. We would think of it as a way of perfect equality, which we'll continue to explore. And so if there is any difficulty, it's in giving up our own long cherished value judgments. They can be value judgments, they can be judgments of meaning, beliefs, attitudes, closed-mindedness. If anything is difficult, it's that we're unwilling to let go of those things that we formulated as habits of the mind. In and of themselves, they are nothing, but we know that we get very attached to our own take on things. And so learning to give them up is the path, and that requires no judgment of your own. And this is an issue of which people will argue against. How can you possibly live in a world with no judgments of your own? Which we are attempting to answer. That's a simple answer, and that is that the power of God is within you, enables miracles to happen. It's not your own judgment. It's a power greater than yourself. And the miracle merely witnesses that that power is within you. And because the power is of God, it treats all miracles and all persons equally. Its effect is limitless. Not that you will necessarily recognize it as such, but in truth, the power of God is limitlessness. And there's a bigger story here, which we won't emphasize at this time because it'll take us too far away from the simple answer. But when a miracle is offered, it offers everything that's necessary. It's a complete package. It offers the entirety of an answer. We may not necessarily experience all that because of our narrow-mindedness and limits that we place on ourselves, but at least what's being offered as a gift from the Creator is limitless in itself. Therefore, there is no difficulty with bigger or lesser miracles. All is required is that we be willing to respond, to be helpful, to give all to all.
The only judgment involved is the Holy Spirit's one division into two categories, one of love and the other the call for love. You cannot safely make this division, for you are much too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else is nothing but a call for love. You are too bound to form and not to content. What you consider content is not content at all. It is merely form and nothing else. For you do not respond to what a brother really offers you, but only to the particular perception of his offering by which the ego judges it.
Okay, so we can summarize all of this. This is true for the entire course, just in a few sentences. Your way of ordering or valuing is wrong. It's based upon guilt, fear, and judgment as a foundation. The Holy Spirit offers an alternative way of responding to a situation. Heather referred to it. It's the essence of the Course of Miracles is that there's only two categories to any situation. One is a person is clearly offering love. They're on your side. They're there ready to help. That their intentions are they are very well intended. The other is where they're feeling an emptiness, a lack of love. This can show up in all kinds of emotional states of deprivation, and they are calling for love. And so the Holy Spirit views every situation as being every situation as being either one or two of those things. So now you no longer need to do all this fancy ordering and value judgments of everything. All you have to do is attend to is love being offered or is it being asked for here? And when it's asked for, as we said, it's often masked under the by many other emotions that would be anything but loving. And I submit that all of you can tell the difference between when love's being offered and when it's not. That is not a difficult. Now, the Holy Spirit is the one that ultimately is the arbiter of is this love or is this a call for love? But you will quickly learn if you practice this policy of not ordering it yourself, you will quickly become sensitive to what's being offered. And then I'm going to do a deep dive in just a second on the difference between form and content. David, you had your hand up?
I don't know. This reading this particular page right here is so important, so hugely important for me about relationships.
Yes.
This is where the ego goes wild and interprets things in some convoluted way. It looks at the form of how something's being done, and it interprets it as an attack or a this or a that. And you know, it's so challenging to see everything as either love or a call for love. You know, I'm so bad at recognizing a call for love from the people very close to me. And in particular, in relationships that I've been in with intimate relationships, I just don't get it sometimes. I just am unable to make that jump that, hey, this is not an attack on me. This is a call for love and should be responded to in a loving, compassionate, miraculous way. I have, as a human, I have a lot to learn there. And just this is just a really important paragraph for me.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we've all been in these shoes. Everyone knows what this is about. This is the direction of the way out instead of responding defensively to someone's remark that touches us wrong, to recognize, oh, wow, they must really be hurting inside to say such things. And which is a very disarming perception of it. This really works. I can tell you that anytime I've used this, it just cut through all my internal defensiveness, which seeks to take over in moments where someone triggers me. Instead of engaging in my own judgments of what just happened, instead, this attitude of love or the call for love engages me with the Holy Spirit's criteria and greatly simplifies. So we would say it's very different than the way the ego responds, but it's also takes complexity, what could be hugely complex, down and enables us to see it through a very simple lens. Since it mentioned form and content, this is often the language, the symbols sometimes get in the way. I thought we'd just spend a moment illustrating the distinction between content. Love is content. Love is meaningful. Love is to be cherished. It's a sense of purpose in the mind to be loving. It can be expressed in a number of ways. The Holy Spirit is only interested in the love content of any occasion. Everything else, the tone of voice, the words that are said, the facial expressions are a part of form. They're more superficial. They involve the body, behaviors, the words, like I said, tone of voice, facial expressions. Another metaphor is it's the frame around the picture, but not the picture itself. We want to concentrate on what has meaning and value. And so this is a mistake that is frequently made. So we know there's a lot of undoing here. And know that a problem appears, this is where complexity comes in. David mentions intimate personal relationships. The problems can appear in hundreds of ways, many of which have nothing to do with you. It might be based upon the other person's childhood or parental relationships. The problems can appear in many forms, but our purpose as miracle worker is not to solve the form that is involved. It's to pierce through and witness the content. And the content, which is it love or a call for love, always has the same correction. This is the fast lane to miracles. It's not complex at all. It's actually very simple. This requires that I be willing to find within myself the inner light, not be defensive, but recognize the inner light within myself, and then recognize that that's true in the other person, that this situation calls for forgiveness, not for analysis, not for judgment, not for assigning guilt, not for analyzing the symptoms of the form, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this will come up often in miracles, confusion of form with the content that really matters.
The ego is incapable of understanding content and is totally unconcerned with it. To the ego, if the form is acceptable, the content must be. Otherwise, it will attack the form. If you believe you understand something of the dynamics of the ego, let me assure you that you understand nothing of it. For of yourself, you could not understand it. The study of the ego is not the study of the mind. In fact, the ego enjoys studying itself and thoroughly approves the undertakings of students who would analyze it, thus approving its importance. Yet they but study form with meaningless content, for their teacher is senseless, though careful to conceal this fact behind impressive sounding words, but which lack any consistent sense when they are put together.
Just to drive home this point between the ego's preoccupation with form, actually, I saw this depicted in movies where there's some kind of uh, gathering, a banquet of some kind. All these people are dressed up and they're having the cocktail party before they go to dinner. And people are behaving cordially towards each other, acknowledging them and speaking politely. But once the person walks away, that's when they remark to the other person how much they dislike that individual and how unworthy they are of love. And so the ego is only concerned with the form. As long as they smile and speak nicely to me, that's what matters. But the ego is unconcerned with content. And so the ego will place full emphasis. And if the person speaks poorly of me to my face, then the ego will feel attacked and will respond to that. So it's only concerned with the superficial appearance of things, not with where the heart and soul lies. Heather?
Oh, this is really huge for me. It really helps me understand why I saw the limitations of psychiatry, because it does just this. It sticks with the forms, but the content, it doesn't even understand the content. So this is just very clarifying for me. It's beautiful.
Hmm. And I might mention, some of the things in psychiatry. I believe that there are, I don't know if there are rules or ethics. You should not hug your patients. I think many psychiatry, certainly Freudian psychoanalysis, would not teach that you should be loving towards your patients. It would teach instead that you should have a detachment, an objective detachment to be away, and many other things that are taught that would be.
I just love that it's the content is concealed behind impressive sounding words like transference. You don't want to get close to the patient because it's transference. So that's exactly what it's talking about. It's like a cloaking of the way that you keep your distance. And so I just so get the limitations now. Not that I'm not against it, but I understand its limitations. It just is very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather. And I might point out that it does talk about students who would analyze, and analyzes in quotes, and thus approving its importance. And so I read into that psychoanalysis, but you could read other things into implied meaning there as well.
That makes sense because that's what Helen was doing. So he's talking to somebody who's in the field, it makes
Oh,
sense.
true. They were Freudian psychoanalysts.
Well, you just missed.
Did I get it?
Did you do 2 or did I miss something? No,
I may have. Let's see.
no, yeah.
Okay, that was 8. This is 9.
This is characteristic of the ego's judgments. Separately, they seem to hold, but put them together, and the system of thought that arises from joining them is incoherent and utterly chaotic. For form is not enough for meaning, and the underlying lack of content makes a cohesive system impossible. Separation, therefore, remains the ego's chosen condition. For no one alone can judge the ego truly. Yet when 2 or more join together in searching for truth, the ego can no longer defend its lack of content. The fact of union tells them it is not true. It is impossible to remember God in secret and alone. For remembering Him means you are not alone and are willing to remember it. Take no thought for yourself, for no thought you hold is for yourself. If you would remember your Father, let the Holy Spirit order your thoughts and give only the answer with which He answers you. Everyone seeks for love as you do, but knows it not unless he joins with you in seeking it. If you undertake the search together, you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is given meaning. The lonely journey fails because it has excluded what it would find.
I had an insight on this week. It came independent of reading this. What it says here is take no thought for yourself, for no thought you hold is for yourself. And the insight came to me through a song that the first line of a song, that spiritual song. It said, "You brought me to the end of myself." And this has been the longest journey. You brought me to the end of myself. And what I interpret that to be is prior to the end of oneself, we are so full of ourselves and our own thoughts and our own judgments and our own ordering. And all that causes us to look backwards into our past and to analyze ourselves and to be all caught up in our own story. And the spiritual journey is about being brought to the end of that self concept, that investment of your faith in the self that we made, the identity that we miscreated, being brought to the end of that. And then the journey can really begin, whereby we let the Holy Spirit order our thoughts. It's no longer our doing the ordering. And then it opens us to a broader sense of identity than we would have ever formulated on our own. And it says, if you undertake the search together with others, you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is giving meaning. So what am I saying is, as long as I keep circling about within my own self-made vortex, then I'm in my own echo chamber, ordering my own thoughts, judging according to my own past experiences, and that goes nowhere. That is not progress. That's what the Course would call a waste of time. It's only when we come to the edge or the end of ourselves that we're willing to let the Holy Spirit guide, take and order our response system. And that takes us beyond the self that we've made, whereby we undertake the search together. And we'll pursue this topic again in other sessions for this, even though I may have summarized it just in a minute or two. There's much more to be said around reaching the end of your self concept.
As God communicates to the Holy Spirit in you, so does the Holy Spirit translate his communications through you so you can understand them. God has no secret communications, for everything of him is perfectly open and freely accessible to all, being for all. Nothing lives in secret, and what you would hide from the Holy Spirit is nothing. Every interpretation you would lay upon a brother is senseless. Let the Holy Spirit show him to you and teach you both his love and his call for love. Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought. The miracle is the recognition that this is true.
So I talked about circling around in a vortex of my own making, where I'm in control of what I value, of what I decide has meaning. These are my own miscreations. It says here that this is not living. This is a part of being on a state of darkness and confusion. Nothing lives in secret. And what you would hide from the Holy Spirit is nothing. It's an experience that makes no sense. And so our task is to be gladly and willingly reach the edge of the self that we have made, so we can step outside of that roller coaster of 50,000 thoughts a day, sweeping back and forth between light and darkness. Step outside that and let the Holy Spirit teach us his love and his call for love. This is what the miracle is intended to do.
Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought. The miracle is the recognition that this is true. Where there is love, your brother must give it to you because of what it is. But where there is a call for love, you must give it because of what you are. Earlier, I said this course will teach you how to remember what you are, restoring to you your identity. We have already learned that this identity is shared. The miracle becomes the means of sharing it. By supplying your identity wherever it is not recognized, you will recognize it. And God himself, who wills to be with his Son forever, will bless each recognition of his Son with all the love he holds for him. Nor will the power of all his love be absent from any miracle you offer to his Son. How then can there be any order of difficulty among them?
There cannot be any order of difficulty among them, because the power of all his love is present in each and every miracle that you offer to his Son. The miracle is a witness to that power of God's love being offered as a gift. It's a recognition that this is true. And so Heather referred to it in simplicity, and to summarize, in every situation, regardless of the form, it is always it's either a call for love or an offering of love. And when your brother gives love to you, then you gladly receive it for what it is, a gift. And where there's a call for love, even if it may come in the form of an attack, you must give the miracle because of your purpose, your identity is to share the miracles, not to be defensive and get even. So all of this circles back to a realization of who you are, of what your function is, why you're here, restoring your awareness of identity. It's an identity that is not exclusive to you. It's shared with all creation. And as we go forward, we become more, we will read in future chapters, more and more about our shared identity with all creation. You first have to recognize God created you as you are, and then it's a corollary, a natural extension that he created everyone else as they are. Heather?
I love this line. You must give it because of what you are. It reminds me of the Dalai Lama. They asked him about, his enemies and who is his enemies. He said, well, I have to tell you, the further along I go on this path, he goes, the harder it is to find enemies. And I just love that. It's because of what he is. It's just, he doesn't see enemies anymore. It's just such a beautiful way to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say thank you for invoking the Dalai Lama. He would be an example, and I'm not trying to make a judgment, it's just my sense of him. He's come to the end of himself and surrendered. I mean, the man is said to spend 5 hours in meditation a day. That's certainly a lot of letting go of one's own attachments, one's own self-made ordering of thoughts. And so reach the end of himself where we all will then find a new identity, an identity not rooted in our past and our ordering of thoughts, but an identity that is shared, an identity that has the power of God's love present at all times. And this is what is intended to be shared. That's as far as we're going to read. These are really important messages. Each one of them is powerful in their own way. I'm so glad that we could get together and share them this way. This is really the key from my view. This changes the world. By changing any one person, you change all of creation. And so I'm grateful that we can get together. Thank you all for your sharing. David, thank you for your reading and your commitment to read. And I wish you all a lovely day. We look forward to getting again soon. Namaste.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Jonica. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.